What's up, Eagles Nation? What's going on, NFL world? How you doing, division rivals? This is Steven Hyder with Gate City Sports Channel, the sports channel where the cerebral NFL fan comes for about 10 minutes of daily content. Good morning, everybody. Well, it's morning for me right now. It'll probably be afternoon to evening by the time this post, guys, but nonetheless, morning for me. I apologize for being absent yesterday, guys. I had a little sinus congestion. I got real sick, guys. Like, it just took it out of me. I had to lay down, go to sleep. You know how it is. Um, Sorry, I already forgot my spiel. All right, listen up. If it's your first time watching the channel, guys, you can do me a big favor. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, guys. Look, it helps us stay motivated, guys. It helps us go ahead and keep pushing out content. And, everyone likes to have people to talk to. And number two, to all my OGs, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. That's how we communicate with YouTube. That's how we let them know that we are conversing back and forth. And then in turn, they take our content and push it out across the platform. All right, y'all. So, first off, I'm not sure if Brunson is watching this video or not, but LB, I appreciate you shouting me out the other day, man. That means a lot, man. You know what it's like when you first start off on YouTube and, you're just talking to yourself, man. There's not a lot of people to really converse with. So having people like yourself in this community who remember those days and then, you really are an advocate for some of us smaller YouTubers. You really do try to go above and beyond to make sure that, you know that we're being heard and to keep, pushing the content out. So me personally, man, I appreciate that aspect of what you do for everybody in this community. Um, Today's topic, guys. I'm sorry I'm kind of rambling, but I do want to jump into today's topic. Today's topic, as promised, guys, I'm going to give you about 3 or 4 low-key free agent signings that are available at the linebacker position. Okay, I'm excited about 1 or 2 of these guys. I think 1 or 2 of these guys are going to be really good, but I do think that you can find depth. You could even find maybe a starter for a couple of years in some of these kind of like no name, not really being talked about guys. And to be honest with you, you pair that with a young TJ Edwards and Nathan Gary, you go draft a guy, these guys might be a good fit. So without further ado, guys, let's jump into today's content. We're talking about low key free agent targets the Eagles may pursue at the linebacker position. All right, y'all, let's get into it.
He hasn't really faced much adversity as far as the weather and whatnot. You can see here they're struggling catching the ball.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, as I started to watch some video, look over the available free agent list, and then I checked into the analytics. There were 4 players I feel like they're lower key. Some way more lower key than others, but nonetheless, they're lower key compared to your Blake Martinez's, your Corey Littletons, and your Joe Schoberts of the world, right? And I want to start by saying this. Please don't confuse what I'm saying today. I told you I think the perfect fit in free agency at the linebacker position for the Philadelphia Eagles, in my opinion, this is an opinion, guys, but I think it's Joe Schobert of the Cleveland Browns. I think he's the best fit here in Philadelphia. But I will say this. Every positional upgrade comes with a cost, analysis. Okay. If you will, in economics, guys, there's a term, it's called opportunity lost, right? So it means for every action you take, you give up something else. In this case, you go out and you sign a Corey Littleton, one of these big name free agent linebackers. It probably means you're going to have to go much lower key on things like corner or maybe wide receiver. So there's an opportunity cost to any player I suggest. What I think this tier of guys is going to do is if you're like, hey, I think we have to upgrade this linebacker position, but I don't want to get robbed at the bank doing it. I think these are the guys that are below Joe Schobert. I told you, I think Joe Schobert is the perfect fit. I don't know that it'll happen. I don't know that Cleveland will even let that guy hit the free agency market. If he does, I think that's a good fit. With that said, I want to name 4 other guys that I think, in certain circumstances and to certain degrees, could be fits here in Philadelphia, each a little different than the other. The number 1 guy I'm going to mention today, guys, he's a division rival. It's David Mayo. It's who was in that clip before you. Look, I think David Mayo has some issues when it comes to his run defense, but he is very athletic for his size. He's got very good pass coverage skills. And I think he's an pass rusher. There's got to be some development there, but I think there's something to work from with David Mayo there because of the raw athleticism. The second guy I want to bring up today, and in one of the slides, guys, I will admit I spelled his name wrong. There's not a W where I put the W at and the second W. So it's Nick Kwiatkoski. Nick Kwiatkoski, something, I don't know. I think it's Koski, actually. Nick Kwiatkoski of the Chicago Bears. I think he's another guy that really fits the system, who could really be an attribute to the Philadelphia Eagles. Okay, he's not going to break the bank. He's not going to be this massive, Joe Sherbert level addition, but he will help improve. Third guy I want to bring up, guys, and this one's going to be controversial. I understand it. Just feel me out. Let me explain it as we get to him in the video. Hopefully, you'll see where my point of view is coming across on this individual. There's two players on the name for the New York Jets, and these are outside the box thinking guys. Number one, Neville Hewitt. Neville Hewitt has played inside, but he's a smaller guy. Okay? He's a smaller guy. He's like a safety playing up in that inside linebacker box. But he's got a nose on him. He's tough. He's a tough dude. I think there's a certain athleticism that comes with Neville Hewitt. I think he could be a sneaky good signing. The other guy, he's a little higher, rated, but he's not the greatest of fits for Philadelphia per se. Depends on how we would want to utilize him. But that's outside linebacker. And this is the same guy from the same organization, from the Jets. And that's Jordan Jenkins. Now, I don't know if we added a Jordan Jenkins, would he be seen as a linebacker? Would he be seen as a defensive end? That's a weird thing you get into with 3-4 outside linebackers. I think he's got ability to play the Sam or the Will, honestly. So he's another guy I would like to talk about today. Without further ado, though, let's remember, I'm going to break this up into 3 separate categories. Your first category, you guys already know, will be pass coverage abilities. The second category will be pass rush abilities. And the third category will be run defense / range. Okay? So without further ado, gentlemen, ladies, let's jump into it. All right, peeps. Let's talk about David Mayo's pass coverage abilities. So, to begin with, I made a mistake. Clearly, you didn't have 29 targets and 37 completions. That would be, trend setting for sure. World record, possibly. He had 29 targets on the season with 17 completions. I hit the 3 instead of the 1, guys. I'm sorry. I said it backwards. He had 29 targets with 19 completions. I apologize there. That works itself out to a 65.5% on the completion rate for the season. He gave up no touchdowns, forced no interceptions. His quarterback passer rating against him was an 82.7. These are all really good stat line, guys. This is a good stat line for David Mayo. With that said, look, he played somewhat this season, but you'd like to see a better body of work from him. With the body of work he's producing, it looks good. And as a matter of fact, I'll show you a little bit of his pass coverage abilities dropping into a zone for you. All right, so cue the film. I'll walk you through it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, time for a little field segment. Guys, I can't do these with every player, just it would make the length of the video too long, but since I am pretty high on David Mayo, I'll take the time to show you a little bit what I saw on film. So, this particular defensive alignment for the New York Giants, guys, this is a basic cover 2, okay? I know the second deep safety you can't see pictured, but he's back there. He moved back a little further pre-snap here. And what you're going to see is, if you look really closely, you got your boundary side, which is going to be your offensive right, and your field side, which is your offensive left. Distinguishing those two guys is simple. Field side is the greatest length between where the quarterback stands and where the sideline is, while the boundary side is the shortest length, right? Generally speaking, you can tell by looking at the offensive center and seeing which hash mark he's closest to. That tells you where the boundary and field is, okay? I want you to look to that boundary side, okay? And I got it labeled for you, boundary. Look to the boundary side. You'll see I put those routes there for you. One guy is running what's really a curl, which is the inside slot receiver. And then your outside receiver is running a vertical route. I didn't follow it long enough to see if it was a fade, was it a post? I don't know, guys. He's running a vertical route. One of those 3 vertical routes, guys. So, what you'll see is if you look to the Giants' defense, when that route goes vertical, Janoris Jenkins is going to fall back into his zone. Okay? That safety is going to go over top and take that vertical route. And you got David Mayo and you got Janoris Jenkins in that zone. Now just watch the reaction from David Mayo on the football. Makes a pretty good play, guys. I was pretty impressed. So I will cue it and show it to you now.
He hasn't really faced much adversity as far as the weather and whatnot. You can see here they're struggling catching the ball.
All right, ladies and gents. Let's talk about David Mayo's pass rush abilities. If there's any place where I felt like there needs to be significant development for David Mayo, it's here. Because as athletic as I think this guy is on film, I don't think he always lives up to that same athleticism when he's rushing the passer. There are some good examples of things, and I'm going to show you one, but I just wish he flashed more as a pass rusher, and hopefully we can get him in here with Ken, Flagel, who's, been he's been a linebacker coach for a long time. He's been a former defensive coordinator. Hopefully he can maybe work on some pressure packages. Although I'm saying this fully knowing we're not a very good pressure package team with the linebackers. But, we've had more athletic guys in the past. Kendricks, Hicks, other guys that definitely I think showed some athleticism and could be used as a pass rusher in the past. So maybe David Mayo could be kind of cutting that same cloth, but there's a lot of development that needs to occur there. On a season, he played in 645 snaps. Was sent on 31 blitzes. He registered one quarterback hurry, a goose egg, 0 quarterback knockdowns, 4 quarterback pressures, 2 sacks. Not bad. Like to see more. Just a personal opinion. I'd like to see more out of him from this aspect of his game. And I'll show you an example of his kind of quasi pass rush abilities. All right. So let's cue that one up now. Okay, guys. So on this play here, you got essentially David Mayo playing the Mike position. All right. He is being assigned as a quarterback spy, one of the most athletically gifted quarterbacks in the league, Kyler Murray. And you'll see he's going to initially step forward in and maybe even a little to the defensive right, offensive left, because Kyler Murray opens his hips a little bit. It looks like it's going to be a wide receiver screen out there. But watch the athleticism of this kid as Kyler Murray tucks it back and starts to break containment. This is a very, very athletic play. As you can see, ladies and gentlemen, at this point, Kyler Murray has broken containment. This is all about athleticism from David Mayo's part to go out there and go get this quarterback. It's a good job. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about David Mayo's run defense, his range across the field. On the season, he had a total tackles of 80. He missed 10 tackles, which worked out to what I said I was noticing, which was a general trend of most linebackers are missing about 9 to 11% of tackles. Anyone that's below that only means they're having a really good season. Anyone above that 11% means that might be a slight issue with tackling. His overall PFF grade was a 72.8. Guys, you've heard me say it for video after video. I'm not a big fan of PFF grades. I think they're very arbitrary. I don't think they do a good job of defining or explaining why they give, what are the metrics that they're using to give these grades. But nonetheless, it's one of the few things we can use for this particular position to grade them. Here you see a 72.8. So obviously they thought he played at a pretty high level. Look, I have concerns with David Mayo as a run defender. Okay. I think that he's very athletic, but I do think that because he's a young guy, he doesn't always take the best angles. And I'll give you an example of an athletic play, but not probably the best angle he could have taken to make the play. All right. So roll the film. All right. On this play, it looks like it's going to be a little bit of a pitch action. You're going to see like David Mayo hurdles a defender to get over there. I mean, it's a very athletic play. But like I said, I think if his instincts were a little better, he had a little more experience, a little more knowledge about the defense, he would have taken a much better angle and maybe not given up so many yards. So that's one, like I said, there's talent here, guys. There's real talent here. There's really something there that could be developed. But I'm not going to sit here and act like he's as polished as some of the guys I mentioned the other day, because he's not. But it's clear, it's obvious. So I'll go ahead and roll the film for you here. So the second player on our list today that I wanted to cover, kind of an underrated guy that I think there's some potential, there's some talent here. This is Chicago Bears linebacker Nick Kwiatkoski. Okay, I liked what I saw when I watched a little bit of film on him. I liked what I saw when I looked at the advanced metrics on him, and I don't think this is a guy that's going to cost you an arm and a leg. So sorry guys, I'm not going to do like film study here on this guy. If you guys would like to see that later, if he becomes like a much more serious free agent the Eagles are looking into. I'll do a film breakdown on them, but I can't do each player, guys. It just takes way too much time. So, targets on the year, 37. Completions, 22. Completion percentage, 59.5. It's really good. Touchdowns to INTs, 1-1. Passer rating against him, 66. Nick Kwiatkoski had a little bit of pass coverage skills here, guys. I mean, these are pretty good numbers. I mean, this is something that's essential for the Eagles' defense. Now, look, I don't think these guys have a nose for the football the way that some of the guys I mentioned the other day do. So they're not going to really give you as much yet for turnovers, but these are developmental pieces. So kind of have to see how they would work out as a full-time starters. Would they have that mentality to go get the ball? That kind of thing we'd have to see. But all right, let's roll into the second phase of his game. Let's talk about his pass rush abilities. Pass rush abilities with Nick Kwiatkoski. So on the season, he played in 518 snaps. Was utilized on 22 blitzes. So he didn't have a lot of blitz utilization, but made the best of his opportunities. 3 quarterback hurries, 2 sag on the knockdowns, with 6 pressures and 3 sacks. The guy can actually be successful as a blitzing linebacker. I mean, the guy shows some skill set here. I mean, this is something I would love to see develop further in his game. My fear here, of course, is the Eagles just of recent haven't been very good about using linebackers and blitz pressure packages. I mean, we use Nathan Gary a little bit and some other guys, but I'd like to see us really, evolve that element of our defense. So I think this kid could provide that type of push, that type of juice for the Eagles. All right, so look at that third phase, guys. Let's take a look at his run, stopping abilities, his run defense ability, basically. All right, Nick Kwiatkoski's run defense, his, range on the football field, guys. On his season, he had 68 tackles, total tackles, 10 missed tackles, a missed tackle percentage of 12.8%. But in overall, like I said, guys, I'm not a huge fan of PFF grade, but they gave him a 72.6. So they rated him right there alongside of David Mayo. He's rated very highly for linebackers. Basically, if I'm not mistaken, that probably puts him in the top 20, top 25 linebackers on the season. So that's a good grade. Here's the deal. That missed tackle percentage, yeah, of course that scares everybody a little bit, right? I mean, you missed 10 tackles on 68, and that's 12.8%. With that said, this ain't Nate Gary, level bad. I mean, Nate Gary missing, was it like 16% is just, a whole nother level of issue here. Now, the kid clearly is going to have to develop. He's got to be a much better, tackler. You can't be missing almost 13%, basically 13% of tackles. Like that's too high. But there's something here to develop. I mean, I don't think I'm crazy. You guys tell me, am I crazy? I mean, I think there's something to this that could be developed. I think this is a fairly good football player. And I don't think this kid is going to cost you anywhere near what some of these other guys on the list I named the day before will. So I like the kid. I think the kid has some potential. But let's move on to our third prospect of the day. The third under the radar free agent prospect I would love to see the Eagles target, especially in terms of cap savings. With this kid, it's not going to cost you much at all. Is New York Jets inside linebacker Neville Hewitt. I know this is controversial. I get what I'm advocating for, guys. I do understand it. But I'm here to tell you, I always look to film along with analytics to confirm what I'm seeing. And I know that there are concerns about Neville Hewitt. I get it. This kid is safety size. I mean, he's not the biggest linebacker. But this kid is athletic as athletic gets. He's a tough dude to be the size he is and play that middle. He's a tough kid. There are concerns to his games. I get it. I hate what he's been scored by PFF. I have nothing to bring to you to refute it because I don't know how they scored him. That's the frustration I have with PFF. Now, had you been more transparent and told us exactly what goes into your PFF grades, then maybe we could have debate here. But because they just give the rating and give no indication of what that rating is and how they come up with it for this linebacker, doesn't leave a whole lot of debate here. With that said, let me talk about Neville Hewitt. Let me talk about what I think is probably the biggest strength of his game, basically his pass defense. So on the season, he allowed 51 targets, or he had 51 targets, and allowed 26 completions. That works its way out to a 51% completion rate. The kid was pretty good in coverage. Touchdowns on the season, 4. Interceptions, 2. I get that touchdown number is high, but he's not the only guy we've covered. I covered a couple of guys, a couple days ago where they also were giving up that kind of touchdown rate. This is one of those guys, he's good in coverage, but when he gets beat, he gets beat. It happens. But he has more of a nose for the football than these other guys I've talked about today. He's got 2 picks on the season. His QB passer rating against is still only 76.9. That tells you he must have been pretty good to give up 4 touchdowns. But that 51% completion rate must have really, because he's only got a 76.9 passer rating against. It's a good figure, guys. I like this kid. I do. I think there's something to this kid. I think there's actual talent here. But let's talk about his pressure rate. Let's talk about his ability to get home, right? So pass rush abilities here. All right. Neville Hewitt. I don't know how the inflection there. I don't know, guys. So on the season, he played in 779 snaps. He played the most snaps out of all the guys I've covered so far, guys. He was used on 52 blitzes. They were not scared to use this kid on blitzes. He registered 0 quarterback hurries with 5 knockdowns, 8 QB pressures, and 3 sacks. I think Hewitt is a pretty good pass rusher, to be honest, from the linebacker position. I think his coverage abilities and his pass rush abilities could be an asset to the Philadelphia Eagles. I do like what I see from this aspect of his game. Now, as you might imagine, a guy who's not the biggest dude playing inside is probably not going to be the most productive run defender. And we're going to get into that now. So let's go into the third phase of the game. Let's talk about his run defense and basically what that might mean for the Eagles. All right, Hewitt's run defense numbers. So on the season, Hewitt registered 72 total tackles. Already a bit of an alarm because he did play in more snaps than David Mayo, but he trails him in total tackles. So that tells you that maybe he's got some growth to go here as a run defender. We get that already. Missed tackles, 12. That's a bad number, guys. When you only had 72 on the season and you missed 12, it's going to give you a pretty high missed tackle percentage, 14.3. It's still lower than Nate Gary. It is. But this is what scares me about PFF grades. I get that Neville Hewitt has a ways to go in terms of some development piece, especially when it comes to run defense. But to grade him 18 to 19 points lower than Nate Gary, I don't get it, guys. I think this crap is very arbitrary sometimes. So I admit, this kid would be a concern. He would definitely be a concern with his run defense. He would have to develop, may even need to put on a few pounds. It's kind of a similar situation with with Nate Gary. But I think the kid also adds something. There's speed. There's special teams play. This kid adds something. He's a good, pass coverage linebacker. He's pretty good as a blitzer. I like what the kid could offer. I mean, this isn't a guy that you go out and you feel like, oh, we need no more moves. Clearly you're going to be in the draft looking for a guy. I mean, he's an additional piece that's going to play a role. I don't think he's going to be like the headliner per se, but you get my point. He can add to the Eagles lineup. One more. This is an outside the box guy. I get it, guys, but I wanted to include him because I could see as a Sam, maybe a Will, maybe Jordan Jenkins would be a good fit for the Eagles. So, fourth guy. Outside linebacker, Jordan Jenkins, New York Jets. On the season, 7 targets, 6 completions, completion percentage of 85.7. Obviously, he wasn't targeted that much. Like many 34 linebackers, sometimes they don't play a lot of coverage. Sometimes they're primarily pass rushers. He gave up 0 touchdowns, didn't record any interceptions either, obviously. QB passer rating against was an 81. This is going to be the unknown question to Jordan Jenkins' game. If you bring him in as a Sam or if you bring him in as a Will. But there are other aspects to his game that, in my opinion, make him kind of intriguing to talk about. Look, my concern here is the Eagles look at this guy and think Jannard Avery and try to do the same thing. Stand-up joker, kind of blitz package, very limited role type guy. I think to some extent you got to have some wild cards in your bag so you can bring physicality when it's needed. And I think this guy playing the Sam or the Will could bring physicality. I just don't know the Eagles would ever envision that with the way that they script their defense. That's my main concern with this gentleman comes from this lack of, pass coverage, stat line here. There's just not a lot to work with here. All right, guys. So Jordan Jenkins as a pass rusher, he's going to shine a little bit here. Ironically, he played the same exact amount of snaps, 779, as Neville Hewitt. He was utilized on 58 blitzes, so similar number of blitzes. But look at this production, guys. 4 quarterback hurries, 4 quarterback knockdowns, 16 quarterback pressures, 8 sacks. That's what this kid could bring. This kid could be a very unique piece in some blitz packages. I think he's going to be decent playing the run. Like, I think there's something here. I fear the Eagles may not see it in its entirety, and that's what scares me a little bit with a guy like this. But I mean, if they're creative enough and they're really looking outside the box right now, this is the kind of guy that, for probably not a whole lot of money would